Antibiotics. Antibiotics act mainly against the bacteria. If you get any type of bacterial infection or any type of bacteria in your body, so to treat that bacteria, antibiotics are used. It is also used to destroy the protozoa. So if you have to define an antibiotic, so antibiotics are the carbon compounds obtained from some bacteria and fungi. These are obtained from the bacteria and fungi to act against them, and it is used for destroying and preventing the growth of harmful microorganisms. Antibiotics were discovered in the 20th century, and after that there had been the revolution in the field of medicine because it was helpful to treat many kind of diseases in the country. So now we know that antibiotics are used for destroying and preventing the growth of various harmful microorganisms. Now antibiotics can be of two types: broad spectrum antibiotic and narrow spectrum antibiotic. Broad spectrum antibiotics are the antibiotics which are useful against a wide variety of bacteria. That is, so many bacteria are there and you can treat all the kind of diseases from this particular antibiotic. If you know the particular type of disease, and narrow spectrum antibiotic are only limited to a particular type of bacteria only, and it is used to treat only a particular type of disease. So broad spectrum antibiotic, the examples are ampicillin, amoxicillin, tetracycline, etc. And if we have not identified the disease, so at that time we use the broad spectrum antibiotic. If you have identified the disease and you know what you have to treat for, that time we use the narrow spectrum antibiotic. Example: penicillin, gentamicin, erythromycin, etc. The most common example of antibiotic is penicillin. Now, penicillin is used to treat the infection which is caused by many bacteria, for example, streptococci and clostridia. Now, these bacteria causes infection of ear, nose, throat, skin. That is, they causes bacterial infection. And this penicillin is also used to treat disease like pneumonia and scarlet fever. Now, penicillin is obtained from a fungus and it is used to treat the bacteria. So, from the fungus we obtain the antibiotic and we use that antibiotic to treat the bacterial infection. The antibiotic penicillin was discovered by Professor Alexander Fleming, and antibiotics was accidentally discovered. This penicillin as an antibiotic was accidentally discovered by Alexander Fleming. So Alexander Fleming was studying and fungi. So he was studying about the bacteria Staphylococci. He cultured the bacteria of Staphylococci in a petri dish. What he observed that there was some fungus that grew. But he also observed that because of that fungus, the bacteria was destroyed. So then he came to know that something was secreted from that fungus which destroyed the bacteria. And this is how penicillin was discovered, that the fungus was releasing the secretion of penicillin, and because of which the bacteria were killed. And this gave rise to the antibiotic penicillin. Next is the harmful organism. Now we had studied about the useful organism. Useful organisms were used for our benefit. But there are few organisms which are harmful, and these organisms cause major damage to the humans. These organisms are called as harmful organisms. Various organisms like bacteria, viruses, protozoa and fungi are harmful to humans. They cause various type of diseases and they also lead to many type of destruction like various fungus and various bacteria which causes harm to our body. So now we will study about the harmful organisms. The first harmful organism is fungi. Now you must have observed that if you keep the bread for a very long time, you can see some green color particles or structures there. So these structures are nothing but fungi. Even you must have observed the changes in articles like leather and gunny bags in various seasons like in rainy season. So what happens is this fungi usually grow in moist area. They require moisture. Now what happens is because of moisture, the spores of the fungi, they burst into the air. And in the moist environment, the spores germinate on the cotton, fabric or gunny bags, leather bags or any wooden article. And they try to penetrate deep into the material and they multiply themselves and reproduce, and because of which that material becomes weak and is of no use to us. This is how a fungi look like. They have hyphae, those are the roots, and they have sporangium inside which spores are present. So when the spores will burst, and because of the moisture which is present in the rainy season, they multiply themselves and they destroy the materials which are useful for humans. And that is why these organisms are harmful. Now you all must have observed the fungi which is grown on various food materials like pickles, murabba, jam, sauces, etc. So what they do is they use the nutrients in the food for their growth and reproduction. And during this time, they also produce a mycotoxin, which is very poisonous chemical. And that is why it is said that if any food material has fungus on it, it should not be consumed because it is very unhealthy for our body and leads to any kind of disease. Another type of bacteria is Clostridium. Now Clostridium is found in the spoiled food. जो food सड़ जाता है उसमें this bacteria is found, that is Clostridium. Now there are many species of Clostridium and it usually affects our alimentary system, and not only in humans but it also affects in animals also. Clostridium also leads to food poisoning. Now here are the few examples of Clostridium, that is Clostridium tetani, Clostridium perfringens, Clostridium botulinum, Clostridium difficile. Now these bacteria are rod-shaped and produce endospores. Now one thing it is important in these bacteria is that they are anaerobic. That is, they only survive in anaerobic condition, the condition in which there is no oxygen which is present. In normal oxygen level, these organisms are not able to survive. Now there are other microorganisms, that is in the form of bacteria, viruses and fungi. Most of the organisms, they causes various kind of disease in humans, and mostly they affect the digestive system of humans. They can grow and reproduce in the living cell, that is they require a host cell. So these organisms are harmful to us. So these were the few microorganisms. Microorganisms can be useful as well as harmful to humans.